think we just lost the CBC there. We're investing in it. Don't worry. Hang on. We're investing into the CBC. Here, hold on. Here we go. All right. Okay, salut tout le monde. How are you? First of all, what a great welcome. It's been fantastic to be here. Amanda, thank you. That cheer for this was, people have had their coffee. Thank you. Danielle and your group, thank you for the support. Cameron we'll talk more about Mode 40, one of the great companies here. Great to be introduced by an entrepreneurial Canadian company. So thank you very much. Great to be here with the Chamber. And Lauren, I'm looking forward to our conversation. There's two parts to this. I'll speak a bit about the announcement that we'll make, and then Lauren and I are going to have a sort of more robust discussion about the AI for All strategy, what it means. A couple things I want to just say about the land acknowledgement and the fact that we're here on Treaty 1 territory. So these things become a little pro forma. You can say them, but they shouldn't be. And I want to just tell you something important. I was at the G7, hosting the G7 in December with my colleagues, and we invited an elder named Kevin Deere. And he said to me, "Hey, Minister, you're into AI, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." He said, "So am I. But you're into artificial intelligence, and I'm into ancestral intelligence. And you better make sure that when you're building your artificial intelligence, you build in our ancestral intelligence." It was a very profound moment. I had Kevin Deere speak to the entire G7. This is a profound point, okay? And it is the foundation of what we are doing. We need the ancestral intelligence of the First Peoples, okay? For our water, everything we build in this economy, the current economy and the future, we got to listen to the ancestral intelligence deeply and build it in. And secondly, the ancestral intelligence of the people who come to this country as immigrants. We all came as immigrants, and we all have our own ancestral stories. And we need to listen to those and respect those. My great-grandfather came to Winnipeg. This is where my great-grandparents are. My great-grandmother got married here. And my grandfather was born and raised here in Winnipeg. And, you know, we all have roots somewhere. But I think hard about ancestral intelligence, because when we're building AI, we are going to make sure that AI for all includes all intelligence. So I want to just say thank you for that acknowledgement. I think it matters, and it informs what we do, and we, not just as we're building as a government, because we're building. Make no mistake, this is a build government. This, I won't swear until later into the program. But we're a get shit done government, don't say this one. So I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank also on behalf of my colleague Eleanor Olszewski, the Minister responsible for Prairie's Economic Development Canada, for hosting us. Let me just say something about my friend and my colleague who I sit beside in Parliament. She's busy on emergency services, the flooding that's going on in the southern part of the province on the border, are obviously making sure that I think our men and women of the military now have been called in to help. So we're thinking about the people who are going through flooding and serious flooding in the south and the southwest part, and then in the north part with the fires. So Eleanor is very seized with that, and I just want to tell you that. And I also want to acknowledge my colleagues, Terry Duguid, who's here, and Ben Carr, who's here, and you have great other colleagues here in Manitoba. I don't know if I'm missing anyone, but Terry and Ben, who thank you for hosting this morning. Really appreciate for co-hosting with me. These guys are fantastic, very seized with what's happening here in the province, whether it is a flood, whether it is a fire, or whether it is innovation, and whether it is investment, and whether it's building, and whether it's raising the voice of Manitoba. Ben and Terry are powerful voices in caucus, whether it's chairing the industry committee, whether or not it's speaking on behalf of the Western Caucus. You have great members here, okay? And there's no real way to ignore them. Okay? We have tried. No, we haven't. They're fantastic. So I just want to thank them. They're good friends. Okay, so, geez, CBC, we got to get. Okay, you know what? We'll figure it out. Yeah, there you go. Couple things I want to say. Look, the AI strategy, AI for all, has 3 pillars, and we'll talk about it: trust, opportunity, and sovereign control. And it's very much exactly what Cameron was talking about, which is we need a Canadian option. We have 3 questions, and I was saying this to the round table this morning. This is our option, Canada, Manitoba. This is the moment we're in. We either build the infrastructure here or we rent it from someone else. We either innovate here or we buy it from someone else, and we either make the rules here or we follow someone else's. Those are the choices. They are not easy. It is hard to build here. You need trust. You need stakeholders. You need transparency. But if we don't do it, it's going to be built somewhere else, and we're going to pay for it, and someone else will benefit. And if we don't invest in our companies here to innovate here, you're just going to have to buy it off the shelf from someone else. And then your hard-earned dollars, Canadian dollars, will help someone else innovate in their country. And if we don't make the rules here to protect our kids and our privacy and our personal information, someone else will. So I will tell you, we are doing that with our AI for All strategy, and we'll get into it, Lauren, in detail with questions about the trust, opportunity, and sovereign control, how we're doing it. We're doing it with legislation on updating our privacy so you can fight back against surveillance pricing, so you don't get price gouged with your own personal information, so your deep fakes don't harm you, so your children can grow up in an environment where they can learn Canadian stories and the stories you want to tell them, and they're not subject to the harms. And yet we won't cut ourselves off from innovation, because you deserve the best medical innovation. You deserve the best technology for your farms, for your businesses. You should have the best access, and yet we should do it on our terms. And that's the balance. But let me start today by talking about the companies that we're investing in, and then we'll get to the bigger picture strategy. And maybe I'll start with a story about TAVE, Winnipeg story. We were at the legislature today with Mike Morose, who's great. I speak to him all the time. I had a great meeting with Mike this morning and his team. Golden Boy was there. It's fantastic. I'm a little bit of a history buff, so I was quizzing my team on the history of the Golden Boy. Medium knowledge from my Manitoba history. But great Manitoba story, TAVE. Built here, growing here, scaling across North America. That this is important. Keeping the IP here and being able to grow around the world from here. We are tired of planting the seed, watering the seed, growing the plant, and then having someone else harvest our innovation, harvest our companies, harvest our IP, and we lose it. That's ended. And we got to invest. TAVE is one of the fastest growing companies in Canada. Number 4 right now on the 50 fastest growing companies in the country. Right? That's impressive. It's an incredible, So I spent the first 10 years of my life as an entrepreneur, and when you're successful, it does not happen by an accident. You're the janitor and you're the CEO. Right? You fire your best friends. You have to take investment from friends and family, and it's hard. You got to make payroll, and you don't take a check. Like, it is a hard job. So when you see a company like TAVE, it's no accident. It took an idea when no one else said you could do it. It took a team. Then it took customers to believe. Then it took execution. Then it took ambition to say, we can do it here in Winnipeg, and we can compete around the world. And it's exactly the kind of growth story that we need to hear and we need to invest in more often. Today is about that. Today is bigger than just one company. It's about a broader shift that's happening here in this province in Manitoba, and frankly, across the country. Companies and organizations are using innovation, ideas, and tools like AI, advanced technology across sectors. In construction, we're seeing it. In manufacturing, we're seeing it. In agriculture, in healthcare especially, in life sciences, in export markets, in business operation. They are not treating AI as a threat, and we'll get to that. We should be candid about the concerns and open to the opportunities, but they are using it as a tool to benefit their customers. AI to serve people, not people to serve AI. A tool to help businesses become more productive if it's possible. A tool to help workers do their jobs more effectively. A tool to help companies reach new customers. A tool to scale Canadian idea from here. C'est ça l'objectif. Une IA pratique. Une IA utile et au service des gens. Last month, our government launched our AI for All strategy, and the vision was simple: AI for all. People don't serve AI. AI serves people. AI strengthens our economy. AI creates opportunities in communities. And that strategy, AI for all, matters because it's got to serve everyone equally. That's the principle. And the three pillars of trust, opportunity, and sovereign control. Trust because technology moves at the speed of innovation. People move at the speed of trust. We have low adoption rates in this country. One of the reasons is people don't trust it yet. And we are building on that trust. One, by making sure we will protect kids' privacy and personal information, and we just launched our Protecting Privacy and Consumer Data Act that I've launched. That's called Bill C-36, for those of you who like those parliamentary acronyms that no one else understands. Because we genuinely need to protect privacy. Kids' data should be treated as sensitively. I have two kids. I mean, they're 21 and 23. They haven't treated me sensitively recently, but I treat their data sensitively. There's an obligation to treat, we're collecting up a lot of data. We should treat our kids' data with a little higher sense of security and priority, like we treat healthcare data. You should have the right to fight back against deep fakes and the right to delete if someone makes a deep fake about you that's destructive to you. You should have the right to take that down. You should have the right to not, when someone's collecting your personal information, to make sure it's not used to price gouge you. You should have that right. So those are important. Businesses need clear rules so they can innovate responsibly. If they are sharing information, a business should have an obligation to treat it fairly, but without an onerous bureaucracy. And sovereign control. And also, rather, let me just say something about opportunity. We got to create jobs for kids. Young people need jobs. Mid-skill people need jobs. There's no data yet, I will say, from the Bank of Canada that shows that we've had job displacement from AI. That's according to the Bank of Canada. People believe there's a lot of concern about it, real concern, and we are concerned that it could happen. So we are investing in skills, education, and training, because the best mitigation against disruption is skills, education, and training. Education is like a passport. You need it. Everyone should have it. Skills are like a visa. You may have to acquire new ones along the way, and so you need to have those skills training. How many people are doing right now the very job that they studied for in post-secondary at college, university? You probably have changed a bit. You've adapted. You've had a new idea. That's your visa card, but your education mattered. You need that passport. So we are going to create 90,000 jobs for young people. We are going to invest in those paid placements so young people have an opportunity in tech. And we will invest in training and education. And then sovereign control, and I think, Cameron, you said it. We got to invest in Canada. Anchored here with our IP, our infrastructure, and our economic value. We've got the best researchers in the world here. We really do. We've got 3 of the best national institutes. We've got the talent here. We've got custom companies and entrepreneurs who are building great tech. But the challenge is adoption and capital. And we'll talk about access to capital, to customers, and to compute, talent, and trust. Are those kind of the 3 C's and the 2 T's that we need, those ingredients. So we've got to raise adoption rates from the lowest in the OECD, 12%, to the highest, 50 to 60%. By 2034, we want to hit 60%. That won't happen by speeches by politicians, although if it did, we'd already have many. It will happen company by company. It'll happen worker by worker. It'll happen when small, medium-sized businesses see how these tools help. It will come when people see genuine benefits, when there's real return on investment. So let me get to why we're here. This is why today's announcement matters. Today, our government, through Prairies Can, and on behalf of Minister Olszewski, my friend, we are investing $10.2 million into 6 Manitoba companies and organizations that are developing, adopting, and scaling innovative technologies in an incredible way. These projects are expected to create 171 new jobs, support 35 small, medium-sized businesses, which is just the headline. The real story, like it always is what happens in these companies, like TAVE. It's going to help this great Winnipeg company expand its AI-driven tech across North America, building hardware and AI-enabled software that's Canadian, growing their team here in Winnipeg, selling to markets across. Their technology detects when commercials are playing in bars and restaurants and replaces them with content more relevant to that audience, that venue, and that moment. That means new revenue for restaurants and bars. That matters locally. That means better tool for advertisers, better experience for customers. But it really means a Winnipeg company is building here, hiring here, developing here, competing around the world from here. So great to see some company develop, innovate, scale, and hire here. So glad to support them. Manitoba Construction Sector Council. This funding will help establish a drone and sensor library for small and medium-sized construction companies. Construction is massively important, especially for a government that is building affordable homes and affordable housing. The project is one of the clearest examples of a practical use of this adoption technology. It means smaller firms will get access to advanced equipment, hands-on training, and technical support. And it means construction companies can get better data from job sites to improve productivity, safety, planning, and execution. So when we're trying to build more homes and more infrastructure and move projects faster, that matters. So we're investing there. And again, not replacing workers, enhancing. It's about putting better tools in the hands of workers and businesses. Il s'agit de donner aux petites et moyennes entreprises les outils dont elles ont besoin pour bâtir plus vite, plus intelligemment, et plus efficacement. Let's talk about Mode 40. Funding is going to help bring AI-powered factory control software to more manufacturers. Industrial AI. That's the heart of it. Industrial AI. Adoption on the factory floor, the applied AI Canada needs more of, not a buzzword, real practical solutions that help manufacturers use data, improve decisions, strengthen operations, compete. So thank you, by the way, Mode 40. Construction clock. If you're here, put up your hand. Might as well get some. We got a construction clock here. There you go. Construction, welcome. They're supporting AI adoption, improves internal processes, and strengthens its products, again for the construction sector. Helping construction firms reduce paperwork, improve admin, and manage projects more effectively. So thank you. Excellent work. I didn't say this to the others, but now that I'm doing it, Expense Point. Where's Expense Point? Are they here? Somewhere. Maybe not. I would be happy if they were working. Let's go. Let's contribute. But they're going to modernize their expense management platform with embedded card services and AI-powered automation. So that's creating new roles to build skills in AI and digital security. Arrival. Are they here? They're not here either. They just take the money and don't come show up. No, this funding will help expand a Canadian-built event and enrollment management platform. They're getting into new markets, strengthening cybersecurity, and investing in jobs. 6 different projects, 6 different organizations, 6 different innovations, 1 shared message. AI is not happening to someone else. AI is not helping somewhere else. It's happening here. It's being adopted here. It's helping Manitobans solve problems here. It's growing here in Manitoba. It's helping bars and restaurants create revenue, and construction companies using better tools, and manufacturers help make their op floor more efficient. It's growing companies here into new markets. And this is the test, right? Does it help grow businesses? Does it help workers? Does it create a more competitive company? Can we build more here at home? And if the answer is yes, it's not potential, it's progress. Look, we're going to talk about risks. There's a lot of risks in AI. And we're pragmatists. We have to honor the people that are worried about their privacy, their jobs, their personal info, and our democracy. Like, these things are real. And people have real concerns. And that's why trust is at the center of our strategy. But there is a difference between being candid about risks and saying no. And I just want to say one, I'm going to end on this finally, or never. I want to just say something about this team no, because we're in a unique political environment. And when you come to places like Winnipeg, people say no a lot. No, you can't build here in Winnipeg. It's too small. No, you can't compete against Silicon Valley. They have too much money. No, who are you? Who do you think you are to start a company? No, Canada, you can't do it. No, if you make a rule, someone else will tell you you can't do that. Team no is everywhere. Team no is easy. Team no was that dick in school that always was so cool, that always said, no, you're a jerk, no, you're a nerd. No. Like, team no is the easiest way in the world. When I started a company, no, you can't do it. No, you're too young. Team no's cool. Team no's easy. Everyone who wants power says no first to a new idea. Team no is in ascendance. No to immigrants, right? No to the country. No to entrepreneurs. No to the bank loan. No, you can't raise capital. Team no is easy. Team yes is hard. Being on Team Yes means you say yes to an idea that you have that no one else has. Team Yes means you're going to go try to make money. Team Yes means you want to build something that no one else has done. Team Yes means you want to stay where your family is and build here from here. I'm going to tell you something. Carney's Team Yes. And Team Yes is hard. It is not an easy road. Team Yes will be a lonely road. Team Yes and building is harder, but Team Yes is the only way we're going to build this country. And I will tell you, in a room, when I see these 6 companies, Team Yes looks like these 6 companies. This is what Team Yes looks like. They care, they invest, they bust their backs, they say yes to Winnipeg, they say yes to this province, they say yes to this country, they say yes to their employees, they say yes to their communities, and it ain't easy. So thank you to Team Yes. I hope this room is Team Yes. We are in a Team Yes moment in this country to build ports, to build mines, to build this country and our communities. So this is our moment to say yes to talent, yes to IP, yes to Canada, yes to the prairies, yes to Winnipeg, and yes to each other. Honestly, we got to bet on each other. So thank you for these 3 companies for being on Team Yes, these 6 companies. TAVE, Construction Clock, Expense Point, Mode 40, Arrival, Manitoba Construction, Sector Council, the Chamber of Commerce, which is your Team Yes. So let's put some of our little differences aside, because Canada is a place where you should be free to disagree. We want to protect our right to have different views, to be different. But let's honor each other, and by investing in each other and building together and joining these 6 companies and saying yes. Thank you.
Now please welcome Winnipeg Chamber of Commerce President and CEO Warren Lemar for a conversation with Minister Evan Solomon.
Well, thank you, Minister Solomon. Great remarks. I do want to say, on any given day, it feels like in the Chamber of Commerce you're playing against Team No. And I want to say, though, in this room is definitely Team Yes. The fact that July, cottage country, golf season, you got a packed room sold out because people are excited about the strategy. They're excited to be a part of what the Carney government is building. And thank you for joining us today to be able to talk a little bit about that. Also, thank you to participating in the roundtable this morning before the event. Met with various leaders locally, and I really appreciated your candor, your willingness to say, tell us what we need to hear, not what we want to hear, but tell us what we need to hear. That's refreshing, and I think you did hear some very direct comments from people in the room that are really intended to be constructive. It's not critical, it's just we need to fix some certain things, and your receptiveness to that was fantastic. And as well, congratulations to those receiving the funding. Great news. So lots to cover. I know we're a little tight on time, so I want to be mindful of that, but a few things we wanted to touch on. First, Minister, through our Manitoba AI Pathways program, the Winnipeg Chamber and the Manitoba Chambers of Commerce, with support from the Government of Manitoba, are helping businesses build AI confidence and unlock productivity through hands-on workshops. In surveying business leaders through those various workshops, what we heard were some of the biggest barriers to their AI adoption were 1, legal and privacy uncertainty, 2, lack of policies and governance, 3, limited internal capacity or technical expertise, and 4th, data security concerns. So can you just touch on how Canada's new AI strategy helps close those gaps?
Right, you gotta remember those gaps. A lot of gaps. So the strategy, the AI for All strategy has, as I say, the trust, opportunity, sovereign control. Just quickly on, you might have to read me those back, because I can actually do them one at a time. What was the first one?
Was legal and privacy uncertainty.
Okay, so we tabled our Protecting Privacy and Consumer Data Act. I tabled that in June. This is a part of a suite of measures to protect people. We believe in protecting people's privacy without stamping on innovation. Prime Minister made a promise, we're going to protect our kids, our privacy, and our personal information because data is the new oil. Your data is valuable. Your health data is valuable. Everybody wants your data, and they're making money on it. And you should have the right to protect yourself because it's a currency. And we just haven't valued it anymore. But now we do. So there's a suite of measures. I have the Protecting Privacy that I've already outlined in that long preamble speech that I did, that will protect your kids and protect your privacy. And this gives an outline to how businesses have to treat the information they collect. So just for an example, we don't want to put an onerous burden. If you own a flower shop, and I want to, like I've been married now for 25 years, and now you can have a moment of silence for my wife. But if I want to send her flowers recently on our 25th anniversary with an apology note for 25 years, and I phoned Joe's Flowers, and I said, send it to our house. Joe's Flower Shop shouldn't have to get permission again to subcontract to a courier service to send the flowers, because that's the personal information, because that's fair business usage or legitimate business usage, okay? So we're not trying to make SMEs, small businesses, have this ownership burden every time but if a bank has your information and they're processing it in Bangalore, or the United States, they should have chain of custody over. They can't say, well, once we processed it in India, we lost custody of it. It was not our laws. Like, sorry, there's going to be some liability. Like, you have to, if you're cross-bordering the information, you should have what's called a privacy impact assessment. So you should know, and some framework agreement. So that's one. Secondly, one last thing I will say on that part is enforcement. We have never had enforcement. So we have had the Office of the Privacy Commissioner, whose job has rightfully been to regulate how government treats your information. So when the federal government takes your information for CRA reasons, we collect a lot of information from citizens. We shouldn't be the one regulating ourselves. So we created the independent Office of the Privacy Commissioner to do that. And they rightly regulate what's called the Privacy Act, how government deals with your information. And you don't want, But we've never had another regulator to have businesses collect. And so the Office of the Privacy Commissioner has kind of taken that job, but they have had no enforcement. So they've long called for enforcement. So in our new privacy legislation and our Social Media Act, we will be setting up a regulator that we believe, like the competition, is an independent regulator that will cover safe social media and how businesses treat privacy, the Privacy Act. And that way, businesses not only will have rules of the road, but they'll have enforcement. And the enforcement is real. There are real penalties of 3% global revenues or plus $10 and $25 million, so real penalties. And I will say that the Privacy Commissioner, when we tabled our legislation, put out a note. Again, he's independent. We don't ask him to do any of this because he can't. Saying he was very pleased to see that in our privacy legislation, there's real enforcement. There's treating children's information as sensitive. There's treating privacy as a fundamental right, because it is your right to have privacy, which we do. So we are protecting privacy and data without burdening businesses, but making the bar much higher and enforceable on data. The second one was, quick.
Well, I was going to jump to the next question just out of interest
Okay,
and
I'll just
time,
do it.
but lack of policies and governance, limited internal capacity, really speaks to the SME adoption challenge.
Yeah, so again, in our strategy, governance, I'll get to, like there's gonna be some provincial jurisdiction, I won't get into that, but just on SME adoption, our goal is to drive from 12% adoption to over 60% adoption by 2034. How do we do that? We have a number of ways. In our AI national strategy, there's $2.3 billion top line in investment in SMEs. Like this is essentially an SME strategy because 95% of our economy are small, medium-sized businesses, like 500 and under, 500 people and under. So we've got $500 million in a new missions fund to invest in companies because companies need what we call the 3 C's and the 2 G's: capital, compute, customers, talent, and trust. And so we're trying to basically solve for all those. So $500 million in capital that the government can invest in our missions fund, that is practical companies that are making a difference. $500 million from the BDC and the LIFT fund, and $500 million will go right into the regional development offices, so Prairies will get a big chunk of that, just to invest in companies that are adopting AI. So that drives adoption. Then there's $700 million in what's called the Compute Access Fund. If you're innovating, compute is like the fuel you need, and your costs are going often, frankly, to big hyperscalers. And we are saying we'll subsidize, this is $700 million for your project, 50 cents on the dollar if you just want to buy it off the shelf anywhere, because you might need to, but 67 cents on the dollar if you buy Canadian. So we double it. So there's a real buy Canadian investment in SMEs.
Perfect. No, thank you very much. And at the roundtable, that was a big focus, was really around the SME adoption. And it really plays to the here, here, here message. We're building here, and the reality is Canada's economy is SME, and many are struggling to adopt. They want to adopt. Speaking of here, here, I want to take it 2 questions. The first one here is really around one of our key sectors, which is the creative sector. You're at a great time to be in Manitoba. We've got the Winnipeg Folk Festival coming up. A recent report from our friends at the Manitoba Arts Council pegs the economic value of the arts, culture, heritage community at $1.75 billion, or 3% of Manitoba's GDP. It supports more than 20,000 jobs. Canada's New Eye strategy includes a $50 million creative technology program to help creators use AI on their own terms. But artists are still facing some of AI's clearest risks. AI slop, I believe that's the colloquial term for it. Unlicensed use of copyrighted work, deepfakes, voice and likeness cloning, the list goes on. You've spoken to some of those issues, but can you, specifically to the creative industries, how does AI for All protect Canada's creative industries so Canadian creators can use AI while the rest remain protected as right holders, entrepreneurs, and workers?
So, I wish I could stay for the Folk Festival. I hope Ben Carr is playing. He's a great guitar player, and I've played guitar with him.
I think he's headlining.
And he might be headlining. He comes from a great family of musicians. His dad, of course, was a great musician. But Ben actually I don't want to embarrass him, but he is a very good guitar player. So I look forward to Ben and seeing you on stage. We do have a $50 million, I, by the way, play guitar, but I'm more on the slop side, which is the terrible side. We do have $50 million in our strategy for as you say, for cultural groups to adopt, who are adopting AI, because they are. We did a summit, a 2.5-day summit in Banff, Mark Miller and I, and it was the first time that, we did a co-hosting summit, so 2 ministers, which is kind of weird, but we thought AI and culture is so important. So it was with about 300 arts groups. We stayed for 2.5 days there. And then afterwards, it was arts groups and AI tech groups. And it was really interesting. And we've set up now an AI and culture advisory committee that reports to both of us, that meets with us because we think this is important. So we're investing in it. There's real concerns about copyright. That kind of falls a little more under Mark, but what's called TDM, text and data mining, and where it goes, and there's some lawsuits that are going on about that. We believe that Canadian creators should be compensated as a basic principle. And there's going to be coming to ground with some policy that Mark's looking into on that. But we've met consistently with those groups on the cultural side. I will say we have seen some adoption. For example, theater companies that are using AI to book spaces, their theater spaces. I know the National Ballet School is in my riding. They use it for their studio spaces to get 30% more bookings through their studio space, because scheduling is like a nightmare for them. If theater companies are trying to say what plays they're going to put on, they usually have to read through a bunch of things, and then they got to do budgeting. Pretend what's it going to cost to stage that. There's great programs. Soul Pepper Theater is using a great program on that. So we're seeing some of the parts of these companies that are really have tight margins are crushing some of the grunt work with this technology, so they can actually survive more and perform more, pay their actors more. So we're seeing some really good sides. There are real concerns about paying artists, and again, we're coming to ground on that. I will just say that, the Prime Minister and Mark Miller just making sure, I understand we're in a trade negotiation with the United States, we just put out this $600 million fund to more than make whole arts groups and companies who aren't getting that revenue necessarily from the big, like the Netflix streaming. So there is absolutely a commitment to make sure that our arts community not only participates in technology, but benefits from it.
So my last question builds on the whole sovereignty, which is really at the basis of Canada's AI strategy. Asked a question about culture, because we know the role culture plays in promoting Canadian identity and sovereignty. But I want to shift a little bit to more on the regulation. So the EU's AI Act is already shaping a risk-based model for how companies build and deploy AI. Canada's strategy puts trust at the center, pointing to privacy reform, online safety laws, and a number of the items that you've identified. But for business, the practical question is always what this means on the ground. So to give you a local example, Emily is helping make Manitoba a leader in agriculture, AI, and data commercialization. They, along with ag tech companies, depend on responsible data use, cross-border markets, and clear rules around how AI can be adopted safely and competitive. So really, you touched on the US there, and we're talking sovereignty. So for companies operating on both sides of the Canada-US border, what advice do you have as they navigate Canadian expectations around trust and sovereignty alongside a very different US data environment?
First of all, great question about the ag sector, where there's real opportunities there, and I think, aren't we visiting Emily, I think, later today, which is, we're looking forward to that. And we've seen great examples of that. We often use companies like Croptomistic, which is a Canadian AI company that helps farmers on fertilizer use. We've seen great AI use on crop development for vertical farming and different things. So some really interesting use cases of tech. in the ag sector. Look, aligning with the U.S. On this is critical. They're our most important customer, and we are obviously in deep negotiations with the U.S. on lots of things. And our Ben and Terry and I speak with Dominic LeBlanc a lot, who leads our negotiation, because I know for Ben and for Terry, they're hearing your voices and they're wanting to make sure that your voices are heard in these negotiations. And so, I can just tell you they're both excellent and keep talking to them on that, because those voices matter in terms of making sure that the views of technology and farmers are heard in these negotiations. Just two things on where the U.S. is. The European view on data sharing, which is their GDPR, okay? So folks, another acronym for those of you who haven't had enough of those today. It used to be called the gold standard, but now you've seen in the last several months, we said this was going to happen a year ago. They're trying to roll back a lot of that because they've stifled innovation. They can't innovate, and they're losing investment. So they're recalibrating in the EU right now their regulations, because they overcooked on one side, and now they're recognizing they gotta do it their own way, partly because they need to develop their own sovereign AI, and they need to innovate, and they can't do it. So, we talk to them a lot. On the other side, you see the US states are running ahead, so you get a patchwork. So there's lots of states who are coming forward, so it's very complicated. And for a while, the posture on technology in the states, and sort of generally, was any form of regulation on technology is a constraint on both innovation and national security, because they were in an AI arms race with China. You've seen a real change, I will tell you. Mike Kratsios, who's my US counterpart, who I speak to a lot, they're starting to recognize, first of all, on safety. President Trump's wife is very active on the protecting kids. So you're seeing a new kind of voices emerging. You've also seen early signs about regulating the power of large language models after the Mythos Fable situation. And not just denying of access to others, but also what should be released. And so they're coming to grips with the galloping, accelerated pace of change. I would say this: we are trying to have a pragmatic approach that doesn't cause any trade irritants. We recognize that this is a charged environment. And one of the things I will say here is what I say, and I've said this to the U.S. ambassador many times, is sovereignty is not solitude. This is really important for us. We are not trying to build a moat around Canada. Sovereignty is not solitude. Sovereignty is choice. The U.S. is making sovereign choices. The Brits are making sovereign choices. The French are making sovereign choices. And we are making sovereign choices. That's what we should do. What's best for Canadians? What's best for Manitoba? What's best for our kids? But sovereignty is not solitude. It means that you still want access to the best markets, the best tools, the best innovation, but you also want to have a choice. If your kids want, or your companies want to choose Canadian for data security, and what does sovereignty also mean for your most sensitive data workloads, healthcare and sensitive? Protected in Canada, not subject to the coercion of a foreign company. Now we've got lawyers here, and Danielle's like, okay, but that's really important. Defining what digital sovereignty is a real policy issue, but sovereignty is not solitude in terms of some of the regs on data sharing, but in terms of storing different types of data in different protocols, there's going to be different areas of protocols on that. And so, again, we will be aligning with the U.S. on lots of things, and there's going to be differences because the U.S. domestic market is pretty rugged right now.
I have to say, I love that line. Sovereignty is not solitude, it's choice. Closing remarks to you. I'll ask a question as maybe structure your closing remarks around this. Is obviously we've got a lot of innovation in Manitoba. You've identified some that have received funding. I guess as a takeaway message, what assurance or confidence can you provide to the local business leadership that Canada's AI strategy for all is really that all, and and it really takes into account that not everything can be in that Montreal-Toronto corridor, that this is for all Canadians, and Manitoba will have a leading role in this strategy. Ouch.
Well, I just want to be realistic here. It's not all in that corridor. Like, let's just be, there's a narrative truth and there's a factual truth. The innovation is really incredible across the country. I mean, what's going on in Western Canada is extraordinary in innovation. And then sector by sector, right? There's the mining sector is massively important, and the ag sector is massively important. The food sector is massively important in innovation in Manitoba, in Saskatchewan, in Alberta, in BC. So there's huge things. Second of all, we've got 3 national institutes for AI, Vector in Toronto, Mila in Montreal, and Amy in Edmonton. And they're all doing great work across the country, but anchored in Edmonton, doing great work here, great work in BC. We're funding that for a reason, because it's got to spread out. So we've got our clusters, like our protein cluster. So we've got things spread out across the country that are funding. Third of all, in our strategy, I just want to double click, we made a choice to put $500 million into the regional development agencies. I won't say this out loud because I thought it was in Chatham House. Let me just say, it is an unusual decision for a minister to decide to use the regional development agencies as a distribution mechanism, because normally they want to centralize. And what that does is decentralize, right? Because you're giving money to the RDAs who have really close movement and knowledge on the ground of where local innovation is happening. And we felt that the best way to distribute this innovation, so we don't sort of cluster, beehive it around certain sectors, is to make sure that the regional development agencies have a huge amount of money that is for this innovation. So Prairies Can is going to play a major role in making sure that, just like the 6 companies we were here today to talk about, they get access to funding. And who will know those companies better? Will we know them in Ottawa, or will Prairies Can know them here? And so I will just say there is a structural assurance that we are structuring this AI for All strategy to be distributed to small, medium-sized businesses locally across the country. And so your question's the right one, because if you can't have AI for all unless you structure it like that, so that's why, fully 1/3 of our big investment money in SMEs is literally coming through the RDAs, which are the answer to regional distribution.
Thank you for those comments, Minister Solomon. Thank you for joining us today.